My name is Wang Zhiyuan, and the title of my report today is The Self-Immolation Incident in Tiananmen Square was a scheme against Falun Gong orchestrated by the Chinese Communist regime. According to the World Organization to Investigate the Persecution of Falun Gong investigation, the self-immolation incident taking place at 2:41 p.m. on January 23, 2001 in Tiananmen Square is suspected to be a scheme against Falun Gong orchestrated by the highest authorities of the Chinese Communist Party, CCP. Their aim was to tarnish the name of Falun Gong, deceive the general public, and persuade them to blindly follow the Chinese Communist regime's persecution policy against Falun Gong. Let's look at some evidence. Evidence 1. Voice identification analysis concludes that two different individuals appeared in the CCTV program as Wang Jindong. On March 12, 2003, WOIPFG entrusted the Speech Processing Laboratory of National Taiwan University to test and identify the voices of Wang Jindong, who has appeared multiple times on CCTV's program Focus Report. It was concluded that the voice of Wang Jindong, the main actor who was shouting in the self-immolation incident on Tiananmen Square, and that of Wang Jindong, who was later interviewed by a reporter at a forced labor camp, were not of the same person. That is to say, at least two individuals played the part of Wang Jindong. It can be inferred based on this evidence that the thinking of this incident's director might be the image of the person at the beginning of the TV program was normal, and the face of the person later interviewed by the reporter was scarred from burning. However, such seemingly logical arrangement overlooked the fact that the voice would not change due to body surface burns. Human voices are as characteristic as fingerprints. Therefore, the result of the voice identification confirmed the fabricated nature of this case. Evidence 2. The participants in the self-immolation incident are suspected to have been replaced en route to Beijing Jishuitan Hospital from Tiananmen Square. According to the news report published by Xinhua News Agency on January 30, 2001, the self-immolation incident occurred on January 23 at 2:41 p.m., and less than 7 minutes later, 3 ambulances rushed to the scene, and the self-immolators were rescued and taken to Beijing Jishuitan Hospital before 3 p.m. Since the distance between Tiananmen Square and the hospital was approximately 10 kilometers, the streets were broad with light traffic, there was no report of traffic jams, and it was an ambulance escorted by several police vehicles, which were also clearing the way. It should take about 20 minutes for the self-immolators to arrive at the hospital. Yet WOIPFG learned from the hospital's medical staff that they arrived at the hospital shortly after 5 p.m. So during the 2-hour period from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m., the ambulance's whereabouts were unaccounted for. Where had these self-immolators gone to, and what did they do? This time difference of 2 hours could explain why the first Wang Jindong and the second Wang Jindong were not the same person. It is quite possible that the first Wang Jindong was replaced with another person who had burning scars on his face during these 2 hours, only that the second person was heavily bandaged. Evidence 3. Liu Siying, who was about to be discharged from the hospital, died abruptly of suspicious causes. Through a reliable source, WOIPFG learned from Beijing Jishuitan Hospital's medical staff who have treated a 12-year-old girl called Liu Siying, who was supposedly one of the self-immolators, that she had fully recovered and was to be discharged on March 17, 2001. On the morning of that day, the chief of the Medical Administration Department of Beijing and the head of the hospital came to see Liu Siying and talked a lot with her. Liu Siying was lively and active then, said the source. However, approximately 2 hours after they left, doctors found that Liu Siying suddenly lapsed into critical condition and died quickly. Thus, Liu Siying's death was very suspicious. Evidence 4. Liu Chunling was suspected to have been killed on the self-immolation site. By replaying the self-immolation video broadcast by the CCTV's Focus Report program in slow motion, it can be seen that Liu Chunling, Liu Siying's mother, was knocked down by a man in military overcoat with a heavy object, so it was very likely that Liu Chunling died from the severe blow to the head at the scene. Alright, let's look at this clip. Please take a closer look. Liu Chunling was hit by an object and fell, and one piece of this object was bounced up high. So you can see that a lot of strength was used. Besides, the perpetrator stayed in the same posture as when he just finished using force. Seen from the planning of the entire event, Liu Chunling and her daughter Liu Siying were doomed to die. That's because without anyone losing life, this vicious incident wouldn't appear realistic, and the subsequent role it was designed to play wouldn't be effective enough. Moreover, it had to serve the purpose of arousing people's sympathy and provoking their anger. So the mother and daughter, especially the minor, would be the best candidates. While at the same time, they were the most difficult to control. In particular, there was no guarantee that the unsuspecting young girl would not reveal the secret when she faced the complicated society in the future. So it wouldn't be difficult to understand why the communist regime would arrange their deaths. Evidence 5. Examples of other questionable points on the self-immolation site. Let us now take a look at this video clip of the self-immolation site. There are two important details in this video clip. This Wang Jingdong was burned so badly that his clothes were in pieces, and yet his hair was not burned. And the plastic Sprite bottle between his legs, which had been filled with gasoline, was surprisingly intact as well. At the moment when the fire started, so many policemen readily had fire extinguishers and fire carpets in their hands. No one had ever seen policemen patrolling the Tiananmen Square while carrying fire extinguishers and carpets, right? Think of the following, everyone. A sudden self-immolation incident that took place in this tightly controlled Tiananmen Square at a most sensitive time must be secretly planned, right? And the burning lasted only 1 or 2 minutes. Yet CCTV got the entire process videotaped with long shots, short shots, and close-up shots, and every detail was clearly recorded. So many policemen came all at once to put out the fire with fire extinguishers and carpets. Such a comprehensive and coordinated action in an emergent rescue was done so successfully. Think about it, everyone. Could this have been possible without prior arrangements or rehearsals? Absolutely not. Background analysis. Let us now recall the background of this incident and its beneficiaries. This took place about 1.5 years after Jiang Zemin started a brutal nationwide repression against Falun Gong. By deploying a massive amount of the nation's resources, his attempt not only failed to achieve the desired results, but also to build up his authority as a terrifying ruler. Instead, it attracted widespread opposition from the people in China and international community. Thus, Jiang Zemin and the Chinese Communist regime were thrown into an awkward situation. Moreover, Jiang's ruling status could have been affected to a certain extent. It was at this critical moment that the self-immolation incident involving 5 people abruptly occurred in Tiananmen Square. Furthermore, it took place on the Chinese New Year's Eve, a day when all the families in the entire nation were celebrating the festival together. Among the self-immolators there was a mother, a child, and a young girl. 1 died, 4 seriously burned. You could imagine what a shockwave it would send out. 1 week after that, the tragic shot of the 12-year-old girl, Liu Siying, was shown to incite people's misunderstanding and hatred towards Falun Gong. Immediately following that, a large Cultural Revolution-style repudiation campaign was launched against Falun Gong throughout the entire country. The self-immolation incident in Tiananmen Square relieved Jiang Zemin of CCP plight, deceived the general public, and served as a pretext to suppress Falun Gong practitioners. Starting from then on, Falun Gong practitioners nationwide have been suffering from an even more brutal persecution, which has lasted up to this day. The biggest beneficiary of the Tiananmen Square self-immolation incident is Jiang Zemin. Conclusion. In view of the above evidences, the self-immolation incident taking place in Tiananmen Square was a scheme against Falun Gong devised by the Chinese Communist regime under the leadership of its then chairman Jiang Zemin, and it was a crime aimed at framing and defaming Falun Gong. WOIPFG is investigating all organizations and individuals. No matter how long it takes, no matter how far and deep we have to search, we will exercise the fundamental principles of humanity and to restore and uphold justice in society. The World Organization to Investigate the Persecution of Falun Gong was established on January 2003, with its headquarters in New York in the United States, and it has branch offices in Europe, Australia, Asia, and Canada. It is an international investigative organization with a mission to investigate the crimes committed in the persecution of Falun Gong.